Let us call in our very own PRLS and BWC Chairperson, Dr. Nassef Adiong, for the launching of the 7 research policies.
Once again, Dr. Nassef Manabilang Adiong for the PRLS soft launching, the Director of the Policy Research and Legal Services of BTA.
Good morning to everyone. Magandang umaga. Salam. The Policy Research and Legal Services ay nagbibigay pugay sa lahat ng kababaihan na narito at sa mga kababaihan sa buong rehiyon ng Bangsamoro, lalong-lalo na sa mga sakripisyong naranasan nyo sa araw-araw na pamumuhay. At nagbibigay pugay rin kami sa ating mga kanununuan, mga ninuno natin na nagsakripisyo ng kanilang buhay para lang makapunta sa ating kung nasaan man tayo na naririto ngayon. Ang mga ninuno natin who have experienced historical injustices for the past centuries, we really have to honor their names, and all the women who've lost their lives, all women who sacrificed their lives, also those who have been working hard to be the Bangsamoro women that they wanted to be at this moment. So we also would like to acknowledge the chairperson, Honorable Bainon Caron, all the officials, distinguished officials here who are present here at this momentous time. Now, we are very grateful to be launching the 7 Bangsamoro Women Commission policy research papers. This was a product of 3 workshop series that we did. The first one was to gather data to formulate the skeletal draft of these 7 policy research papers, which are part of their POPs in their budget for this year. And we are so grateful that we have partnered and collaborated with the Bangsamoro Women Commission so that the Policy Research and Legal Services was able to contribute in the writing. Also, in the second write-shop that we did is the completion of writing of these policy research papers. And then the third workshop was actually converting these policy research papers into legal measures, whether setting out the policy guidelines, because BWC is the premier policy guidelines who setting up their own policies for the protection and safety of all Bangsamoro women. And either an insertion to the GAD code or an executive order that will be approved by the Chief Minister. So we've had this 3 workshop series: data gathering, repository of data, formulating a skeletal draft, what could be the concepts, what could be the methods that we're going to use, how we're going to obtain those data, and then we completed those policy research in the second workshop series that we did, and then the third last workshop was converting this into legal measures, actually to properly provide a policy making procedure for all the Bangsamoro women. Now, for the first policy research paper, next slide please, is the Gender and Development Transformation and Institutionalization through Mainstreaming of Programs, Agenda Linkages Advocacies Award in BARMM, or they call it GADTIMPALA Award. And this GADTIMPALA Award, if I may call, and for you to be recognized, we can come up to the stage, Arshid A. Alfonso and Nurunihar B. Muhammad, who are the authors of the first policy research paper. Si Commissioner Muhammad, and where is Arsh? He's not here? Okay. So while si Commissioner Muhammad is getting onto the stage, I'd like to provide you an abstract of this first GADTIMPALA Award. This is actually an incentives to all Bangsamoro ministries, offices, and agencies who are performing well, who are actually doing and implementing all of those 5% GAD budget that are allocated to their own office budget. So the BWCC's establishment of incentives and award system that highlights the critical role of the Bangsamoro government in addressing gender issues, gender justice, and women empowerment as vital and must be institutionalized for the accurate and suitable utilization. Biruin nyo, kada opisina, mapa-MP man, Office of an MP, ministries, offices, commissions, all of them, all of those budget, they have 5% na allocated para ma-implementa nila kung ano-ano mga programa, proyekto na nakalaan para sa mga kababaihan at sa mga minorities as well. And this first paper, thank you, Commissioner Uda. So I'll be calling all the authors if you could come up to the stage because we'll be having some photo offshoots. Also to recognize your efforts to in writing and doing the research of this paper. Actually, the first paper suggests a need to employ a system that would incentivize and reward all GAD-related initiatives and advocacies because of the prevailing realities in the region. Diyan ko muna, Commissioner Muhammad. At least exercise muna tayo kaysa buong araw tayo nakaupo. At the second policy research paper, second slide, is the creation of women paralegal at the community level for the prevention of gender-based violence. This is very a noble policy paper for the Bangsamoro Women Commission. And this policy paper or research paper is actually authored by Paramisuli S. Aming, Marjana S. Imran, Fatima Ziada H. Yusuf, and Kebart Pilikayan. Do we have all of these authors present in this event? Do we have... Sige. Akito kayo sa stage. So we are... Nakikipagbigay-pugay rin kami sa mga manunulat ng itong policy paper. These community paralegal papers aims to provide possible alternatives to strengthening efforts to prevent gender-based violence, focusing on their access to the justice system and legal assistance. The Bangsamoro Women Commission proposes the creation of a pool of women paralegals kasi may iba-iba rin namang pangangailangan, lalo na in terms of providing legal assistance sa mga kababaihan sa buong Bangsamoro in communities who shall have basic knowledge of the law and its procedures, know about conflict resolution procedures, and have the necessary motivation, commitment, attitude, and skills to help survivors of gender-based violence and violence against women with their legal, human rights, administrative, constitutional, and development problems. Para lahat ng mga kababaihan ngayon sa Bangsamoro with this policy research paper, may bibigyan kayo ng karampatang solusyon, lalo na sa mga biktima ng mga karahasan sa loob ng inyong tirahan o sa loob ng inyong komunidad, na magkaroon tayo ng designated women paralegals who will provide legal assistance sa inyong pangangailangan. Now, the third policy research paper, next slide, is the development of gender-responsive protocols for CEFM, GBV, and VOW cases in BARMM. And this is authored by Vincent L. Casil, Benjamin H. Salik, Ranisa E. Salahuddin, Kamar Saumay, Julie Lasuerte, Ustaja, Anisa Taha, and by Febraida Caron. Do you have all of this, people? Please come up to the stage so you could be recognized of all the efforts that you did in researching and writing these policy research paper. These gender-responsive protocols presents that despite the various measures that mitigate gender problems, BARMM communities have different ways of handling gender conflicts, which may not be aligned with the approved legislation. So communities follow a combination of national and local protocols, which are the traditional. Alam naman natin at kailangan dapat yung mga gender-responsive protocols, lalo na sa pagsagot sa mga itong issues na ito, ay dapat contextualized, nakakonteksto sa loob ng kultura at tradisyon ng ating pamayanan. The study raises issues on the applicability of national protocols. May mga protocols from our national mechanisms na hindi maaaring angkop lalo na sa kultura at tradisyon ng ating pamumuhay. Especially that given the prominence of traditional procedures in handling gender problem. So from the gathered data, recommendations are formulated to be basis for improving the Gender and Development Code. For the fourth policy research paper, next slide, this is the gender disaggregated data on education, employment, and governance. And this is authored by Mac Ershad Pabilian, Abdul Wahid Tocalo, Faija Taalil, Muhammad Balimbingan, Bailin Sandayan, and Juna D. Montilla. Do you have all of this also? Please come up to the stage so you could also be recognized. This is very important, especially that the Bangsamoro Women Commission should have its own data science or data bank where you can all get this disaggregated data in terms of employment, education, and governance. So it could come up and supplement those policies that are be implemented by the Commission. Actually, this analysis advances that on the account of its robust methodology, timeliness, and legislation compliance, the existing updated Philippine Core Gender and Development Indicators of PSA need to be adopted as key metrics for statistics on gender disaggregated data on employment, education, and governance in the region. The policy research paper recommends an improved coordination with concerned ministries, offices, and agencies to form an interagency committee for the purpose of resolving issues on gender statistics and database creation in the region. So we will have a more, science-based, data-based policies. Hindi lang naman produkto ng imahinasyon natin, but it's a based on empirical data as well. So the fifth policy research paper, which is on strengthening gender sensitivity, humanitarian response, and natural and anthropogenic hazards in BARMM. Di ba naalala naman natin nung kanakaraan kung paano tayo nawasak ng dilubyong paeng, lalo na nagkaroon ng biglaang pagbaha sa lahat ng panig ng Cotabato City, hindi tayo naging handa. At papaano na lamang yung mga kababaihan, kailangan magkaroon tayo ng gender-based humanitarian response, lalo na sa oras ng kalamidad. Dito sa gender sensitivity humanitarian response, ito ay iniakda nila Aisa P. Sulaiman, Commissioners Samauna Unda, Lyndon S. Enriquez, and Abdul Nasser S. Giabar. Do you have those people here? Also, please come up to the stage so you can also be recognized. So there are many existing national and international policies on gender sensitive humanitarian response, and there is actually a need to localize these national policies to have a mechanism for preparation, response, and rehabilitation in times of calamities, noting the cultural and religious sensitivity of the people. So the Office of the Chief Minister, the MILG, the MSSD, and other concerned agencies, in coordination with the Bangsamoro Women Commission, shall convene to formulate this mechanism that will be the guideline in response to a humanitarian crisis, especially that we are being frequently visited by storms and typhoons. So we really need to have some kind of a gender-based humanitarian response in times of crisis. Sixth policy paper is the of Magna Carta on women. And this policy research paper is authored by Fauja Abdullah, Mary Jane Aluden, Rahima Silongan, Nurhamia Hamdag, Rohania Sumail, Anisa Linga, and Saima Mamalo. If you're also here, please come up to the stage so that you could also be recognized. The policy research paper on the Magna Carta investigates the situation of women living in the Bangsamoro region relative to the following women's rights spelled out in the Magna Carta of Women, namely protection from all forms of violence, including those committed by the state, protection and security in times of disaster, calamities, and other crisis situations, participation and representation, and non-discrimination in employment in the field of military, police, and other similar services, and equal rights in all matters relating to marriage and family relations. So the authors of this policy paper, they recommended that we need to enhance the drafted GAD code or the Gender Development Code by incorporating the suggested revisions stated in the policy analysis. It is also strongly recommended to expedite the filing of the Bangsamoro GAD Code to help advance. So kailangan na talaga natin mapabilis ang pagsasabatas ng GAD Code sa parlamento upang magkaroon na ng mabigyan na ng punan ang mga pangangailangan ng mga kababaihan sa buong rehiyon. And then we also have the last policy research paper, which is the Monitoring Women, Peace and Security in Relation to Gender-Responsive and Gender-Sensitive Evacuation Centers. And this was authored by Maud Alcalil A. Bugabong, yes, si Macbogs, Giobay Diocolano, Sahara K. Ali, Nurlaili B. Taha, Meryl Aiza B. Abdul, and si Aziza Benito. So they all have contributed to write this paper, which is geared to ensure gender responsiveness and gender sensitivity of all evacuation centers in the BARMM region. Actually, the policy research paper will take a quick glimpse of the state of the BARMM government's disaster risk reduction management plans and determine whether the Commission needs to be incorporated into the institutional structures or procedures of the DRM. And this will also look at several policy options, especially in the terms of monitoring and assessment mechanisms, so that we could employ this to all those BARMM evacuation facilities in the region. Now, we could have given you a copy of all these policy research papers. It's actually a 142-page book. 142-page book. We could have given you a copy, but we ran out of time in terms of printing, paglalathala. We were supposed to send out today so that all of you have copies of all of these policy research papers, which will help alleviate all those concerns that you have. But we're waiting, and hopefully in 2 to 3 weeks' time, it will be accessible to the public. So magbigay-pugay tayo sa lahat ng mga manunulat at mananaliksik ng itong policy research papers na nagsagawa upang matugunan ang mga pangangailangan ng kababaihan sa buong Bangsamoro region. So yun lang at maraming salamat.
There you have it. Thank you so much, Dr. Nassef M. Adiong, and also we'd like to give acknowledgement to all the authors of those policies po. Maraming salamat for putting strength in safeguarding and putting safety to our Bangsamoro women. Maraming salamat po. Nilagan nyo ng pangil yung protection na nararapat para sa mga kababaihan, and this is very possible once again through the help and support of the Director for the PRLS, Dr. Nassef M. Adiong. Maraming salamat, sir. Salute. Thank you so much for choosing Bangsamoro as your home in making a difference differently.
Yes, Sir Bong, before we will hear the message of commitment of our